Hey everybody, it's Sunday, and that means it's time for Games of the Week, where I'm going to look ahead to this coming week in the NHL, Sunday through Saturday, and talk about what I think are going to be the best games of the week this week. So let's get right into it with today, Sunday, November 18th, Vegas versus Edmonton. Edmonton coming off a tough loss in Calgary last night. A really emotional game, a really intense game. I will talk more about that game later. That was hockey at its best. Now they have a game at home against Vegas. Vegas is a struggling team this year, but there's talent there. We saw what Vegas did last year. It's not going to be an easy game. It could be a big-time letdown game if Edmonton allows it to be. Edmonton needs this win. They're starting to fall back in the standings a little bit. Edmonton really needs this win over Vegas. So that should be a very intense Pacific Division matchup and a very important game for both teams. Edmonton needs that win. Vegas needs that win, arguably even more, to keep themselves out of the bottom of the Western Conference. So Vegas needs to start to put some wins together here as well. Tomorrow, Monday the 19th, Buffalo versus Pittsburgh. Buffalo is off to an incredible start this season. They look really, really good. Much better than I anticipated them to be. I knew they'd be better. I did not think they would be this good. Buffalo looked good. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, is having a horrendous start to the season. They're in dead last in the Eastern Conference. They do not look like the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're a team that really needs to turn things around and turn things around quickly. It's almost Thanksgiving. They are running out of time here. So that's a huge game to see if Buffalo can stay hot and see if Pittsburgh can turn things around against a good team. Also, Monday night, Tampa Bay versus Nashville. That two of the best teams in the league. Even though it's a cross-conference game, even though it's probably not going to be a physical game, two of the absolute best teams in the league, potentially a Stanley Cup final preview if both these teams end up have a very good chance of going to the finals. Certainly at least have a chance to meet up in the finals. I mean, there are other good teams that certainly could do it, but Nashville definitely has a chance. Tampa Bay definitely has a chance. That's a really, really good matchup. Tuesday the 20th, only one game on Tuesday, which is weird for a Tuesday night. Usually Tuesdays are big nights in the NHL. Only one game, but it's a good one. Edmonton versus San Jose. Pacific Division matchup. Edmonton has a lot of in-division games in this stretch now and coming up. They've got to start putting some wins together. San Jose, currently the best team in the Pacific Division. Really, Edmonton is trying to see if they can play with the top of their division. If they can beat San Jose, they can beat anybody. They can be a threat in the West. San Jose has had a kind of a, I don't know how they're obviously having a good enough start. They're in first place in their division, but it hasn't been, I don't think, the dominant start that people expected. People thought San Jose was going to look like a great team, and they haven't really looked like a great team. They've looked like a good team, and in the Pacific, that's been good enough to this point. But San Jose, I'd like to see improve their play a little bit. In Edmonton, they really need wins, especially in division wins at this point. Wednesday, the 21st, a few real good games on Wednesday. Florida versus Tampa Bay. Divisional matchup, in-state rivalry. Those teams do not like each other very much. Florida is not off to a good start. They really need to start picking up some wins, and a lot of wins. Tampa, no better team to try and do it against than your cross-state rival. And Tampa is one of the best teams in the league. So that's a huge game for the Panthers. They've got to get at least a point out of that game, or they're gonna see themselves stuck near the bottom of the standings. St. Louis versus Nashville. I mean, just Central Division rivalry matchup there. That Central Division, I talk about them every week. They're just those games are so fun to watch, so physical, so much animosity between the teams, anytime those Central Division teams meet up, it's usually a good time, especially if they're good Central Division teams. And St. Louis not off to a good start at all. I think they might be in big trouble. Nashville off to a blazing hot start. St. Louis, that's a huge game for them. And then Winnipeg versus Calgary, Canadian rivalry. Just two really good teams. Calgary, big win last night in Edmonton. Calgary's at home against Edmonton, not in Edmonton. Calgary is jumped up to second place in the Pacific Division. They're playing pretty good hockey right now. Mike Smith hasn't been great, but David Riddick has been really good in net for the Flames. He's doing a stellar job as the backup, and it might at this point start stealing starts from Smith. So you have Winnipeg, who's obviously a very good team. You have Calgary, who's become a pretty good team. That should be a really fun matchup. No games on Thursday, Thanksgiving in the United States, so obviously a major holiday. There's no hockey on that day. Friday, what a slate of games on Friday. Friday is going to be quite the day in the NHL. First off, you have the afternoon NBC game, the Thanksgiving Showdown, nationally televised on broadcast network across the nation. New York Rangers versus Philadelphia Flyers, divisional rivalry, really strong rivalry, teams that absolutely hate each other. That is going to be a great game. Might be the game that I live stream this week. Hopefully will be the game that I live stream this week. I do got to make sure that I'm available at that time. But if I am, I will be watching this game and live streaming during it. And then the great games just keep on coming. Montreal versus Buffalo, two teams off to very good starts this year, playing much better than anyone expected. Division rivalry. Montreal and Buffalo, I mean, it's not Boston and Montreal, but they do not get along. Really strong rivalry there, so that should be a really good game. New York Islanders versus New Jersey Devils. Another divisional game. Really, two teams that need wins. The Islanders are off to a very good start, much better than anyone expected. But with the Metro Division all stacked on top of each other, if they go on a 2 or 3 game losing streak, they're going to go from second place to probably 2 or 3 points out of a playoff spot. So the Islanders, every game's important for every team in the Metro, and the Devils are only 500 to start the year, so they need to start putting some wins together. That should be a great game. Pittsburgh versus Boston. Even though they're not in the same division, there is a lot of animosity between the Penguins and Bruins. For whatever reason, every time those teams play, there is just something there. Much like when Boston plays Washington and when they play Philadelphia. Even though it's not an in-divisional game, there's a rivalry there, and it's fantastic. So Pittsburgh versus Boston should be great. I hope to watch at least most of that game. And then Nashville versus St. Louis. They play 2 days before. They play on the 21st, and then they play on the 23rd. Nashville versus St. Louis is Central Division rivalry, great matchup, should be a lot of fun to watch. That will be a great game as well. And then finally, Saturday the 24th, Winnipeg versus St. Louis. So St. Louis plays Nashville on the 21st, Nashville on the 23rd, and Winnipeg on the 24th. Talk about a really difficult week for the St. Louis Blues, and they're a team that has been largely disappointing to this point in the season and needs wins badly. Now they have to play the two best teams in their division. Good luck, St. Louis. But again, anytime those Central Division teams meet up, it is usually a great game. So I can't wait for that one. Boston versus Montreal. Do I even need to talk about that? I mean, it's Boston versus Montreal, the most storied rivalry in NHL history. You figure out the rest. In Dallas versus Colorado, Central Division games are fantastic. Great. Should be a great matchup. That should be a very high-flying matchup. I expect a lot of goals to be scored in that game. And those are two teams currently in playoff spots, so should be a lot of fun to watch. So those are my picks for the games of the week this week. We have quite a few of them. All these, the NHL now, they make the first month and a half of the season not so great. They do a lot of cross-conference matchups. They try and save the best games for later in the year. Well, this particular week, we're getting some really, really good games. So, hopefully you get the chance to watch at least a few of these. I know that I will get the chance to watch a few of them, and I can't wait because hopefully it's some really, really good hockey. So, those are the games of the week. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media, check out offthewallhockey.com. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support Off the Wall Hockey, the link to our Patreon is in the description, as well as the link to our merch store. So grab some Off the Wall Hockey merch if you'd like. Christmas time is coming up. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.